ما رأيك في من يقول لزوجته أموت فيك؟ هل فيها شرك؟ وإذا كان شرك فهل هو شرك أصغر أم أكبر؟ وماذا يفعل إذا قالها؟ وما هي الكفارة؟ جزاكم الله خيرا.
لا، هذه من المغازلات التي فيها مبالغات زائدة، والمتغزلون يقولون أنهم يموتون بسبب غزلهم وولعهم بما الزوجة.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So this Shirk had an interesting video. It was like a clip, right? And something I thought was pretty funny was he kind of grinned when he said that, you know, it's excessive exaggeration. It's just something that people say when they flirt. And it's a romantic expression. It's just showing intense love for the wife, right? And some women, they want to be told that. They want to be lied to. And like, oh, would you die for me? It's like, yeah. But if a man said to his wife, like, would you die for me, honey? She'd be like, no, you're a psycho. You're narcissistic. That's a red flag. So I was just thinking about the hypocrisy there. Now, what's funny is that my brain went towards, like, how many times have I seen a true crime story on Explore With Us and other true crimes where a woman manipulated a guy who liked her into killing her husband? This is something that is actually pretty common, right? And then I was like, whoa, men should be very careful, you know, with what kind of woman they say I would die for your sake to. Because I watched a recent video on EWU, Explore With Us. A woman was getting tapped by 3 guys. They didn't really all know about each other, and she was married. And she convinced one of those guys to delete her husband, okay? And he did. And then, it wasn't too long ago where I shared a screenshot of a news story of a Christian couple where the wife, they were doing some missionary work in Africa. They had a bodyguard, black bodyguard. She was white, her husband was white, and she was having an affair with the bodyguard and convinced the bodyguard to delete her husband, and he did. And when you really just look at how many women would take that type of loyalty and hold you to your word, you could turn that into a comedy skit. Like, if I was a director for a comedy skit, like, man's like, honey, I would die for you. I am like a prince to you. And then the woman's like, well, since you offered, I mean, you know, I want you to go and attack this person. And then he does. And then he, like, he dies. Because there are women who will get their man into some serious trouble. They'll treat their husband like an attack dog. Think about times where a woman knows her husband loves her. She gets drunk. She's at a baseball game. She starts arguing with a guy in a crowd. And she's lippy and sassy because she knows her husband will step in and defend her. So she goes around causing trouble. But if she knew her husband wasn't going to step in, she'd probably shut her mouth. Right? But then women at the same time, like especially feminists, if you recall in that book I did on my main channel, The Sexual Revolution by Lori Penny, she mocked men for seeing themselves as protectors of women. Yet, when women are with their man, and if he doesn't protect her from a drunk criminal, they'll say he's not a real man. And they'll say that's his gender role duty. But feminists will say, you know, gender duties are a social construct. They don't need to be adhered to. And so you're like, you guys go back and forth. So, just this thing, like, me, I wouldn't believe if someone said this either. It's just like, you would die for me? What are you, a fucking retard? You know? Because I know that there's going to be people who, they find that to be really romantic. But if you're lying, why are you bullshitting me? Why are you lying to me? I don't like lies. You know? If you want to show devotion and flirt, compliment the body, bring me an iced latte. You know what I mean? But the type of woman who wants to hear that her man would like get gutted, sliced and diced for her, decapitated for her, you know, like, that's like a megalomaniac. I'd be like, no, I don't want you to die, I want you to pay the bills. What are you talking about? I'd be like, no, don't die for me, live for me, go pay the bills, man. What are you talking about? So it was an interesting thing because, like, Antonio Banderas, he plays in the movie Zorro, and he's supposed to be like really romantic. Spanish men have an archetype in cinema where they are really romantic, right? They're like kissing the hand, you know, and they're suave. They love the women, you know. But I just was like, no, man, that's, you can show love and devotion another way. But I do understand that if there's a criminal coming into the home and your husband gets blasted trying to defend you guys, that makes sense. I understand. So I'm not dunking it. I'm not saying men should never risk their lives to protect their family, but using death as a form of flirtation is a bit macabre, isn't it? Like, if a woman's like, I would murder for you, honey, you'd be like, whoa. You just rewind a bit there. Cool your heels, you psychopath. I guess I've seen just way too much true crime. Because the capacity for women to, once they know how deep their claws are into your brain and on your ball sack, they're gonna squeeze. Like, you gotta be so careful with how much you reveal you care about your woman, because it can shift her to be like, now I'm gonna manipulate you, now you're my puppet. Cause see, when I follow these gold diggers, they say things like, I'm a goddess, I got main character energy, and then you're like, whoa, and they see themselves as so self-important, and they don't want to serve their man, but they want to see him grovel. They like it. The feministic art that I have been noticing is women in suits and high heels with their foot on the back of the guy's neck. There's also videos where women will be sitting in a chair and then they put their feet on the guy's shoulders and he has to open his wallet and give her money. You see a lot of that type of energy of, you know, get him to be the little pay pig, get him to submit, you know, humiliate. Once you know you got him, now you pull out the dominatrix brainwashing card. Okay. And so, me, I see it in a totally different way. I know that there's a woman who'll be like, oh, I wish you would give me flowers and chocolates and a fancy purse and tell me you would die for me. And me, I'm the opposite of like, what's your game, man? What are you getting at? And if I had a son, I'd be like, don't you ever say those words to a woman that you would die for her sake. Respect your life. Don't tell someone you would die for them. I would only say it to my children because it's true. While they're young, if they become shitheads when they're 25, well, that's obviously going to be very different, isn't it? Because you're not these innocent little beings anymore, and you may not have a close relationship with them anymore. But when your kids are teeny tots, they're innocent beings who need your protection, right? And here's another thing. I would die for your sake. Yeah, what kind of death? I'd ask. Would you have your fingernails removed? Would you have an eyeball plucked out? Like, I'd have fun with it. I'd start getting a bit, like, creepy. I'd be like, yeah? Would you have some toes removed? Would you become a eunuch? Like, you know, like, you could get really evil and then be like, well, Well, I wouldn't die in that way. Well, you didn't specify. So do I get to choose? Can I choose the way in which you die? Like, I don't know, man. What do you think? It'd be so funny. But he did mention that it's not shirk. But to exaggerate that excessively to a woman because you want to try to show your love, you're opening yourself up to a psycho. Because if you say that to her, and then you end up cheating on her, or getting another wife, or divorcing her, she's going to turn into a psycho. Because you pumped her ego up. You flattered her into oblivion. You flattered her so much she sprouted feathers and flew into the sky. Like, and now you're trying to call her back down to earth. Wait, come back down, don't put your ego in the clouds. Get your head out of the clouds. Come back down. Get off your high horse. Come back to down to earth, to reality. But you pumped that airheadedness into her with your bizarre flirtation. And now, when she can't command you like a dog, she's going to be upset. Because why can't she command you like a dog if you're willing to die for her? Why aren't you willing to do what she says? You see what you did there? You gotta be careful. Man, I feel like kind of teasing my husband when he comes home, and I'll be like, listen, would you die for me? But I'm gonna try to say it stone cold face, and he's like, what? And turn it into like an awkward pause, like just for my own giggles, and then tell him I'm totally joking. Like, I would never ask someone that. Like, I'm telling you, if someone tells me that, I'd be like, who do you work for? You work for the CIA? You son of a... I wouldn't trust somebody, man. You're willing to, like, just say trivial, stupid statements about how easily you throw away your life for someone is so strange. This comes from romantic comedies. This comes from, like, those bullcrap novel stuff. Like, the knight in shining armor, I will die for the damsel in distress. And then meanwhile, this lady's had like 20 men. She's actively cheating on him. He has no idea. His kids are not probably even his. He's like, I'll die for you. You're just asking to get set up. Never tell a woman that, even if it's true. What kind of crazy woman wants to know that her husband would, like, just get sent to a horrific gulag for her? If he does it on his own accord and you find out, you're like, oh wow. Don't talk about it, be about it. Actions speak louder than words. Don't speak that and then, like, expect everyone to believe it. And women who, how do you put it? I wonder how many women who are ride or die, Bonnie and Clyde, how many women that were with cartel people, mafia bosses, gang leaders, and they were like, I'll take a bullet for this guy. And then they find out that, like, he just has all these other women, and then she, like, totally hates him and wants to kill him now. I was willing to die for you. Why were you cheating on me? And these women, they can't take it. So you crossed that threshold. You raised the standard so high now that any action you do that's not subservient to her is going to backfire on you to a deadly degree, and you just created a nemesis. You just created a monster. Right? That you will have to slay. Be careful out there, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, actually. Don't fall for it. It's a trap. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Join the vlog.